The preliminary patch notes for Darktide's itemization update is overall pretty good and contains various positive changes, including buffs to much-needed weapons like the Thunderhammers and Bolt weapons, more open blessing pools and brand new blessings to increase blessing variety, extended weapon family availability for all human classes, and a talent tree update that focuses on touching up talents across all classes while also adding new ones for Psyker. They said that these are not all of the patch notes for their update, and that the remaining notes will be unveiled when the update drops, so for now, all we have to go off of are these changes. The changes Fatshark makes are overall good and will shape the game to be more fun. However, there are some changes to weapons that are frankly concerning, and I do not like the precedent that they set. There are two things that specifically concern me. Before delving into them, though, I want to make something very clear. I am a huge proponent for ensuring that everything is viable in a game like Darktide. This means that I believe something should receive changes when it falls too far outside of what should be the norm, and while that does mean that I fully support buffs to things that fall too far into the undertuned category, that also means that I fully support nerfs to things that fall too far into the overtuned category. I do not support the ideal of buff everything to be overpowered, because that's how you end up with homogenized weapons that all feel the same to use, which turns the game into a snooze fest. Realistically, the balance of Darktide should be akin to a bell curve, where most things fall within the centralized zone of what I like to call Goldilocks balancing. Not too weak, not too strong, but just right. Realistically, some things will fall within the outer zones of slightly undertuned and slightly overtuned, but as long as they don't push into the outmost zones of underpowered and overpowered, then they're fine. The goal is to push these weapons as close to this Goldilocks ideal of balance as much as possible without sacrificing their identity, while simultaneously preventing any weapon from being underpowered or overpowered. This is because underpowered weapons are overshadowed by everything else and are rendered worthless, while overpowered weapons overshadow everything else and render them worthless. Both of these reduce the content available in the game by reducing build variety, and in the case of overpowered weapons specifically, directly harm the game by taking the fun away from other people in favor of the one using the weapon. This final point is the basis for my concern. 3 weapons in this patch are receiving tweaks that put them at risk of becoming too powerful, or are receiving tweaks that continues to perpetuate their already extremely powerful nature. The first of these weapons is the Plasma Gun. Plasma Gun is already at the top of the meta for veteran players, to the point where a well-built veteran player can make others in a lobby feel invalidated. Plasma Gun is and has been too strong, and rather than bringing Plasma Gun down a notch, Fatshark not only chose to not do that, but also add blessings that could make the weapon overall stronger. To put it in perspective, when running a meta build with a Plasma Gun, you are able to consistently 1- and 2-shot Crushers and Reapers with its right click, and consistently 1- and 2-shot non-Ogren enemies with its left click. Now, it is admittedly difficult to tell if the addition of these new blessings will result in outright higher damage numbers than the current meta blessings because we don't have these new blessings to test. Regardless of if they do or not, though, this is the wrong direction to be taking a weapon as powerful as the Plasma Gun. At absolute best, these new blessings will be a side grade to an already extremely powerful weapon, and at worst, it will make an extremely strong weapon even stronger. We should be discussing how Fatshark has tuned down the weapon to bring it in line with the weapons that they are buffing up, not speculating if these new blessings will make it even more broken than it currently is. I'm all for increasing build variety within the game, but not at the detriment of the fun of everyone else in the lobby. Fatshark, please nerf the Plasma Gun, especially if you are planning on adding more ways to boost the gun's damage. And don't gut the weapon either, just bring it down a notch. I know you guys have some fantastic testers behind the scenes who give you feedback, so please listen to them. The other thing that concerns me are the blessing additions to both the Flamer and the Purgatus staff. First off, flamethrower weapons in general do not need rending to be effective. Flamethrower weapons as a whole are quite a divisive topic within the Tide genre. They are inherently a selfish weapon since they not only prevent your team from interacting with the game, but they also deny them coherency regeneration through melee combat, which for melee classes is necessary to stay in the fight. But regardless of my personal taste for them, they should still be a viable weapon. That is why I called for Zealot Flamer buffs in my balanced discussion video. However, that is not an invitation for these weapons to be overpowered, and especially flamethrower weapons should never, ever be allowed to be even slightly overpowered in a Tide game, because the entire game revolves around hordes. If a single player can consistently kill hordes with a single press of a button, then the rest of the team has nothing to do except shoot ranged units, and not everyone is going to join games in progress with a ranged killing build on. If someone with a melee-focused build plays a game with someone using an overpowered flamethrower, then the melee build will feel worthless because they actually are. Flamethrowers do have a built-in weakness of range, but they need another weakness to ensure that melee-focused builds are not rendered completely and utterly worthless when a flamethrower is in the lobby, and the way that this is best done is by making flamers bad against heavily armored units. Adding rending to these weapons removes this though, and even though 20% rending isn't enough to really make a difference in the grand scheme of things, once again, it's not a good direction to take flamer-based weapons. Truth be told, I don't know why Fatshark is buffing weapons that simply do not need it. I don't mean to downplay the good work that they've done with this patch, but these changes are kind of baffling to me. I do understand the desire to extend available blessings to boost build variety, but that should never come at the cost of balance. And it's not like they don't understand how to intelligently nerf either. They brought down the unyielding damage from the Thunderhammers after buffing them up to make sure that they don't end up overpowered, so why they didn't do a basic nerf for the strongest weapon in the game at a bare minimum is lost on me. And like I said before, I don't think the addition of 20% rending on flamers will suddenly make them overpowered, but I also don't like the notion that Fatshark thinks they need buffs when they very much do not. Also, the addition of Blaze Away to the Purgatus staff and the general damage talents to the Psyker skill tree might actually make Purgatus incredibly strong. An absolute worst case scenario is us ending up in a Purgatus meta alongside the Perpetuated Plasma meta, and that will not be fun. As always, I'm going to wait until the patch and its patch notes are fully out before I formulate any final opinions, but I do feel like that these changes sour what could have been overall fantastic patch notes. What do you think of these patch notes though, and do they make you more or less excited for the itemization update? Let me know down in the comments below.